Esoteric Perspective viewers, welcome to my channel. And specifically today, I wanted to cover one of the first few subjects that really came to me was this Taoist approach and exploring sexual licentiousness, which is, the ubiquity of this type of behavior, especially in society today. It's widespread, hence the behavior being ubiquitous. But essentially, what I want to open this conversation with is, covering the basis of what some of these Taoist approaches can help our society in general, and how we can incorporate some of those practices into our daily lives. Name of the game is integration. How can we integrate some of these things? And one of the primal instincts next to self-preservation, which is the strongest animal instincts that we have, is procreation. We have to procreate. It's been important ever since the beginning of time that we need to progress our species forward. But the problem with that is that in our society nowadays, we have perverted this act. But it's supposed to be an act of unity and bringing souls together. But as we all know, that's not the case. That's why I'm here, to make your life easier. So, as you can see, the theme of the presentation, or perhaps a conversation, I want this to be more of a conversation so that we get our mind thinking, because I'm here to help. That's the most important thing, because I'm also speaking from experience. And I think this is the strongest type of knowledge that you can have, not from reading from a book, but I do understand that we live in the 21st century and we have to read, but living wisdom is much more potent in comparison to reading something on a book. Now, let's go to the next one. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So, in brief introduction to Taoism, I don't want to go too much into this because I want to get to the good stuff, but essentially what it is, it's just living in accordance to the Tao. As we have probably seen this before, we have seen the yin and the yang. So it's the idea of polarity, that positive and negative attract. Again, I don't want to go into that because, the law of attraction has been overused, and I want to bring in good information without bringing in not bringing in too much information that's been overused. But essentially, the teachings of the Tao, they bring simplicity, spontaneity, harmony with nature. Again, nature, which radiates at the highest frequency, and its origins of the Chinese culture, and basically what it includes. The next one. So the beliefs of the Tao of Taoism are, they represent balance in life, and essentially that's what we strive for. If you look at the yin and yang, we all try to step right in between those curved lines so that we maintain a balance. If you stray one way too much, then you're out of balance. If you have too much positive charge, you need a little bit of negative. So it's the idea of polarity, right? Opposite sides pulling all the way to the middle so that we try to stay right in the middle. Okay. And essentially that's what nature does. That's what nature does. It brings us to equilibrium, and that's what we want. Okay. So again, I don't want to go too much into the historical content. You could look that up, but we'll move on to the next thing. So now I know this is a touchy subject, and but somebody has to cover it. Especially for me, I feel obligated to. So when it comes to understanding manhood, right? So essentially, what it means is it's all relative, but it's stepping up to the plate. That's essentially what it is, right? It is, and different cultures have different ways of defining it, but it's the brute force. It's essentially when you think of the human body, it's penetration, right? It is brute force essentially, right? And it's a frame. Think of a picture, right? If you think of a picture, so the frame itself is masculinity. It's essentially, well, the picture itself, chaos and the beauty inside is the femininity. So you need to have frame, right? Essentially, that's what it is. And we have seen, especially in Western society now, this has been thrown around and in different societies, you have different roles what men stand for, right? And these different metrics of measuring that, but essentially, I have to keep it simple. Frame. That's it. Keep it simple. Frame. That's all you have to worry about. Okay. So, the Taoist views of manhood, the nature of competition and aggression, right? Think about, I I like to use an anecdotal example. For example, my natural tendency as a man is to compete. I have this urge to compete constantly, constantly, constantly. It's deep within. It's just how I'm wired. And I'm talking on a primal level here. So control, control. We live in a control environment. So you have to harness this power and channel it towards where you want to go. And essentially that's almost a Taoist view on the matter, but there is the book definition. But again, remember, living wisdom is much stronger than reading something from a book. And essentially, that's what I'm delivering. Okay. But again, we just started. So I want this to be, I don't want this to be more of like um, informational delivery, but rather, essentially, that's what it is. I want to introduce you to the matter so that I can get to the nitty-gritty by breaking down each and every issue and then explaining my viewpoints on it while helping you understand the matter at hand. Okay, let's move on forward. So, I don't have to explain this one. Excuse me. Sexual licentiousness, right? So, we all know what he can do. Put society to an imbalance, right? So, if it's excessive and unrestrained, it breaks down the natural flow of life. Again, nature. That's not the way nature intended humans to be. It is not because now you start getting into not no longer you're getting away from the physical body, but getting into the spiritual as well as the mental, and it's essentially tying two souls together. So if you're tied to a lot of souls, then essentially yours is dimmed, and you're not essentially being yourself because all the other energies that have been tied to you are affecting your personality. But we'll get into that as we go on and build. Now, so the Taoists, they advocate for a balanced approach, which I agree with, right? There's mutual respect and emotional connection, right? Some of the modern day practices, for example, modern dating in some of these apps like Tinder, Bumble, and so forth. I don't have to tell you the obvious. It is there's there's no room for mutual respect and emotional connection. Especially, essentially, what you're doing is you're using each other as a tool, as an object, and then moving on, as if your souls did not just tie to each other, right? So we have to move forward mindfully and responsibly. Simple. So let's go on. So, so Taoism, where it comes from, essentially, true freedom in sexuality. Essentially, what he says about that, it's about understanding. It comes from understanding and restraint. Like we can start talking about the moons, Jupiter, what it represents, and Neptune. But again, I'm reaching here. So bear with me. Now, this allows individuals to respect their partners and social norms. So when you connect with one person, right, and you think of them as a person, not as an object, clears out your head. It gives you a sense of purpose, right? And you're able to free your mind from all the other distractions. Okay. So through mindfulness and self-awareness, you can find a fulfilling expression of your desire through that person who understands these values, which is going to bring you harmony and peace.